Okay. I'll call the regular meeting to order for February 18th, 2015. The notice requirements provided in the Open Public Meetings Act have been satisfied. Notice this meeting was privately given in the new schedule of meetings of the Spotswood Borough Council on January 1st, 2015. The new schedule was transmitted to the Home News Tribune and Sentinel. It is filed with the clerk of the Borough of Spotswood and posted in the municipal building at 77 Summerhill Road in Spotswood, New Jersey. I'm going to ask everyone to rise for a salute to the flag and remain standing for a moment of silence. Tonight, at the moment of silence, I'd ask that you please keep in your thoughts and prayers for Fred Walters and his family, who tragically lost his mother recently, and our own municipal clerk, Pat DiStefano, who lost her mom yesterday.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Councilman Stalin?
Here.
Councilwoman Drost? Councilman Seeley?
Here.
Councilman Ritchie? Council President Lasacco?
Here.
Mayor Policino?
Again, for the purpose of the record, Councilwoman Droz left our beautiful state to go to Hawaii to tough it out there. Councilman Ritchie's out of town on business, and the mayor suffered an injury, and he's recuperating at home, so we wish him well as well.
We have minutes tonight for the January 21st, 2015 regular meeting.
Make a motion to remove the minutes. Second.
Councilman Stalin?
Yes.
Councilwoman Drost? Councilman Seeley?
Yes.
Council President Lasacco?
Yes.
We have the following resolutions under the consent agenda for February 18, 2015. Copies of the resolutions are available on the table. Anyone desiring a copy may also contact the clerk after the meeting. Council President and council members, I will take a motion to accept resolutions 2015-42 through 2015-47 under the consent agenda.
Make a motion and pass the resolutions?
I second that.
Councilman Stalin?
Yes.
Councilman Seeley?
Yes.
Council President Lasacco?
Yes. Okay, thank you very much. Reports from council members. Councilman Stolen.
I had emailed everyone from our planner regarding our master plan review, regarding a tree fund ordinance that we should establish. During the planning process of a site plan, should more trees be coming down that they can replace on a particular project, we could accept funds, which we therefore could use at plantings at municipal properties, parks, or anywhere we have right-of-way that we need a tree. So without that, we would waive the amount of trees that, we would waive the tree requirement, and we would get nothing. So this is something we should put in place. And we'll also start a fund, so if someone wants to dedicate a tree in memory of someone, we could accept funds for that as well. There was only one question, that would be who would administer it. Most of the time it's Director of Finance, because there is a report that they do. And if everyone is okay with that, there's some language to delete regarding Environmental Commission, which we don't have. But if we're good, if we can put this on the next meeting to pass.
I actually have a question. The Director of Finance would manage the funds, but who would actually make the decisions where the trees would go from that fund?
Well, that could be a recommendation from our engineer or from council.
I think that needs to be delineated in the ordinance, as well as the fees. I don't think they were in that sample ordinance, so we might need some discussion.
Fees, that's done at the planning level during the...
Does this, may I glance at it, please? Usually $500 a tree.
Okay, so we can...
You could talk to Todd about it, but the typical
Okay.
number is $500 a tree. He uses that number, our landscape guys use that number, where we administer similar ordinances, or our foresters for towns. So,
And
My recommendation is not, however, to put that number in the ordinance. The reason being, 10 years from today, it might be $700 a tree, and our ordinance says $500. So I think, I always think what's more appropriate is a fee to be set on an annual basis by the engineer or by whoever you want to choose.
Fine.
Then that gives you flexibility, because that's what happens all the time. These fees get outdated. So just saying, if we can talk to one about language.
okay, Okay, and I believe we also have to set up a dedication by rider account with the state,
Okay.
so that these funds are in a separate trust fund dedicated specifically to trees, and it
Right.
lapses from year to year.
Yes.
Joe would set that up.
We would have to do a resolution
Okay.
also.
I was hoping that the mayor was here tonight. There's one thing I wanted to readdress, and well, first let me start. Every year we put $40,000 in our snow account, and I would say last winter we went over that, and probably this winter we're going to go over that. And last night during our budget meeting, the mayor has told us that he changed longstanding protocol that instead of just salting intersections and main streets, he's now salting every road in the borough. And I'm really, when I think about it, I mean, environmentally, it's not a good thing to do. We are on a fairly flat borough. We have very few curved roads, and if they are sharply curved, they could be salted. But to just blanket every street with salt for every storm, I think is wasting a valuable resource of our tax dollars. And also that salt usually becomes very hard to get later in the season, too. So if you would pass that on, and I mean, I think if we can have everyone on the council, if you want to give your opinion, and let him know which way we stand on it.
I'll weigh in on that because we did have discussion after the meeting. I did, but, and I concur. You know, I remember.
It was brought up last year, the
Right.
one meeting we had to hold in the firehouse, I recall
Okay.
bringing it up.
I just know also last year we had, I believe it was last year, we had a major problem because we ran out of salt and
Happened
getting
this year also.
shipments. And I believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I think part of the reason was that the rail lines were frozen and the salt deliveries or something the salt delivery, it just wasn't happening.
Well, the demand was so
And the
outstripped.
demand- Absolutely.
And
So I'm-
it goes in chain, the state, the
Absolutely.
county, and then
Oh, and then us.
municipalities. Yes.
Well, all the municipalities and then us.
And then
Yes.
the private contractors who could not get any.
Right, so, and we did discuss it, and there are a couple, you know, but, and I concur, I just think it's a little bit, you know, risky to just do that, particularly when, quite honestly, you know, I give kudos, we did it at the budget workshop with John Mayer and his crew, we did it at the last council meeting. They're doing a phenomenal job.
They
And
are.
I tend to get a lot of feedback from people, I think we all do on the dais, and the feedback we're getting from our residents on the job that the Public Works are doing is phenomenal. So I just don't know that we got to take that extra step. So I also concur, if you want to weigh in as well, Councilman Seeley.
Well, I would say it depends on the storm. It really depends on the storm. As Councilman Stolen had said, I mean, you can't do it for every single storm. Like this past storm was a powdery light snow. But when you get these storms where it's a storm right after a storm and there's ice buildup, then it may be a good idea, because trying to stop on powder on top of ice doesn't work very well. And then you might see the need for it.
Well, that's why they do within so many feet of every intersect. They do that, where you stop
I
and
know
start.
that, but a good example was the other day, even though it was a light snow. It usually takes me 26 minutes to get to work. It took me an hour and 15, and I travel south, there is no traffic. I
was
believe
probably
you travel
right
the same
behind you.
direction I do, and the road was quite a trip.
Yeah,
But that was all roads.
yeah.
And I think for once, because usually 18 is completely salted, and that was the first time I've ever seen them back off and wait till the storm was over.
Well, I think it does have to be left a lot to the road department. There may be areas, and like he said, some of the tree streets, there may be areas where homes shade the road in a certain spot. I think we have to leave it up to their judgment.
We do leave a lot up to John's discretion, especially when it comes to when we have salt shortages. Just recently, we had one. Fortunately, about a week later, we got our back deliveries, which it was back 2 loads. But he does use his discretion when it comes to that.
But just, you know, we
Absolutely.
heard there was a blanket edict that now every street's going to be salted. And I'm just totally against doing that. We've had no complaints the way it was done. It was being conservative with the tax dollars. And that's where I would like to be with it.
And I believe, I don't want to put words, but that's essentially what you're saying as well.
Exactly.
So they are already doing that policy, so there's no sense in just making it. So that would be something that the council would support.
And that's all, and how are we holding up with that fund that we fund every year and it rolls over? How
The
is that?
snow trust?
Yes.
It's actually doing very well. We're working on 2011 funds right now, so.
Wow.
So that's something that, instead of having to have a catastrophe where you have the blizzard and then we have to raise taxes because of one storm, we put in $40,000 a year into a snow account that rolls over, and then It actually, during some good years, it builds up and allows us to have a
It's
surplus.
very similar to what I was just explaining, the
Right.
dedication by rider. It's a trust fund where the money lapses from year to year. Same thing with our snow budget.
That's great.
Very good. Thanks, Don. I'm finished. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Seeley.
Well, I just want to touch on this a little bit. I don't want to go too deep into it till we have some real concrete finalization. But I've been reaching out to secure this USDA loan and grant, which was the 40-year loan for payment that we were looking to do in a new water tower and some other water work in town that we can incorporate into this. I've spoke to Bruce on this. I just recently spoke to our auditor, Jerry Stankwitz. What's his name, right? Mr. Stankwitz, yes. And he's looking into getting us our documents of eligibility. I should hear from him in the next few days, which I asked him to please forward it to Ms. McDonald as well, so we can jump on this before we miss a boat, because it is a great program, and the one he's looking into would give us quite possibly 30% forgiveness on the loan, which is, if it happens, would be sweet as well. But I don't want anybody to get all crazy about it just yet, but we are looking into doing that. So the ball has not been dropped at all. It's just moving along. And that's pretty much all I got right now.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for taking the lead on that and just running with it, because that certainly seems like it'll be a home run or a grand slam. I don't have much other than the fact that we had our budget workshop, which went really well. The Councilwoman Droz, like I said, was away, so I'd like to make sure that she's equipped with all the information and she has her opportunity, and we're going to try and move that along as quickly as possible, because we want the budget to go through smoothly as it has in the past, and it appears to be this time, so it was very productive. Board of Education did really well during the storms. I know sometimes it's a little tough with the childcare issues, trust me, I know. And sometimes people question as to why are we calling, delayed openings so quickly, et cetera, but I just like everyone to be, assured that those decisions are being made for the greater picture for everybody. And although it seems inconvenient, there really have been the right calls. And I think in the long run, we can see that the right decisions have been made. Public Works doing good. The Board of Education has been doing phenomenal. So all is good. And I think that's all I have as well. Dawn.
Okay, I have a couple things. Just a heads up to everyone, MCIA, who provides our curbside recycling, sent us notification that they're no longer going to be sending out the schedules, the brochures. This is a bad copy, but this is what's typically sent out. They're going green, and it's going to be on their website. What I plan on doing is doing a link from our website. But on that same note, I wanted to get council's feelings on our recycling brochures, our leaf collection, recycling drop-off, sanitation. What are the feelings for the borough going green on these?
I think it's a great idea.
Okay.
I don't know, a lot of residents, older ones maybe especially, that are not into computers, it is something I think it's nice to get to see the schedules, but what is the cost involved in doing that?
It's at least a couple thousand, and we
Per
do it
mailing?
twice a year. Yeah, we do it twice a year, once in the spring and fall. So, I mean, we could still provide print copies, put them in Clearwater, the library. You can think about it. I didn't want a decision this evening, by all
Well,
means.
one of the things, I noticed Helmeta, when they send their tax bills out, they include a lot of these things in with the tax bill. They have a letter from the mayor, they have a letter from utilities department and road department, and if we're going to mail something out, we could make the most of it and include multiple items.
The only thing, that's a wonderful idea, and I'd love to do that, but the only thing is this typically goes out in the fall. Our tax bills typically go out the beginning of August. So we would really have to be on our game and have everything together early.
They use their utility mailings also, but of course, we use a postcard, but they mail their utilities in an envelope and they include it with the utility mailings quarterly.
Right. We are switching, by the way, on that same note, from a postcard mailer to one of the self-sealing mailers. I don't know if you've seen other bills like it with the perforated sides, and it's going to open up. It's going to have more information in it, and it will get to you sooner. we were notified by the post office that it is now going to take 7 to 10 days for postcards to be mailed, bulk mail. So we're looking at improving how quickly it gets to you so that you have ample time to pay it, and as well, providing you more information that is at our fingertips now with the new meter system.
Do you know what that type of card costs to mail compared to an envelope?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but I can certainly get it
Because
to you.
maybe instead of doing that, we could incorporate an envelope and put more information in there. As you
Right.
say, even more information than just utilities.
Or
I
would-
can look into
Or
it.
would those self-sealing things be much more automated?
The self-sealing ones are definitely more automated. We would have to think about somebody stuffing those envelopes every month, because again, we have a different utility cycle going out every single month.
It's not quarterly, it's monthly.
Right, right.
Okay.
On that recycling paperwork that we sent out, the advisory flyer, could you have a more accurate number by our next meeting on what that cost?
Sure, absolutely. It's basically the paper and the postage.
Okay.
The Board of Ed sets it up for us, and they do the printing for us, free of charge. It's just a matter of the paper and the postage. Anything else on that?
I missed the Middlesex recycling letter, because when I do my calendar, I always mark it the days, and I couldn't find it, so yeah, I had to search the internet for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I missed my mailing.
A couple other things I put on the dais for all of you. The borough received a letter of interest from a developer. They're interested in purchasing a lot on Richmond Avenue. And I've asked Bruce to look into the feasibility, if we would be interested in that. So that's going to be discussed shortly, probably at the next meeting, you think, Bruce?
Absolutely, I got the open space list, and I have the borough list of property owners, all the property the borough owns. I want to look at it globally rather than just for one lot.
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
How big is that lot?
I think it was over 100 by 100, if I
Okay.
recall.
Just curious.
It's this right here.
You know, we had attempted to buy, or not buy, we had attempted to acquire any other properties in that area. It's like a green acre, it's a green, what do they call that, Bruce, that zone? It's a
It's conservation.
conservation zone. And we, really don't want anything built in there. It's very difficult to build in there with the runoff as it is. And we tried to acquire, if there's any properties that were behind in their taxes, we acquired those. I think the last thing we want to do is to sell them. When we have a home that's sold and you have a couple more children in it, all it does is raise our taxes with schools. So I've been against selling any of that property in there.
And Bruce, chime in, this is exactly in the
Yeah. you just-
location where we just talked about doing these site improvements to mitigate an already existing problem, and it's going to mitigate the problem, but then potentially go right back to a problem if we have, I mean,
And it's an environmentally sensitive area as well, so I don't know if they're looking into it for development or looking into it for wetlands, enhancing the wetlands for credits somewhere else to develop somewhere else. I'm not sure.
that's what you're going to check into?
I don't have any way of checking into that without calling them and asking them what the intent is, and if that's okay for me to do, I'm more than happy to, but Dawn has mentioned to me that a resident came in who also received a similar letter.
Yes, for an empty lot in that same area. We're not the only
The sense of
one.
the council is that you don't want to sell it. Why even incur all of this? I get the sense from everybody, you don't want to sell it. There's no obligation to offer it for sale.
Depends on the
Right to the
price.
chase.
We couldn't anyway, right? We'd have to auction it?
You'd have to auction it off.
Yeah.
So there's no, it's not like you can say yes anyway, you have to,
No, that's a good
Right.
point.
and who knows, anybody could get it, the next door neighbor could buy it, and say, I want it, so.
There's some property owners on the northern end of Madison that had been attempting an application, and
Yes.
and it wouldn't work. So you probably buy from him.
But I don't know if that's the same one that you're speaking of, but on the flip side of that, if you recall a couple meetings ago, we had an inquiry with somebody wanting to sell the borough an empty lot on Madison.
Right.
They have reached out to us again and would like to meet and possibly negotiate a lower price. So I don't know whether you're
That was a smaller lot though, right? If I remember correctly?
Yes. It's possible that this developer may have contacted this one because they're in the same area. So,
Well, I gave you an idea of what I thought would be
Right.
fair,
right.
if we're anywhere in that type of area.
Okay, so I'll discuss it with her. Next, I have a letter from the county. They're asking for a representative from Spotswood for their Transportation Coordinating Committee. If anybody has any ideas of someone that would be suitable. It involves night meetings. It's the fourth Tuesday of every month in New Brunswick. So you can get back to me offline if you want, if you have any ideas for that committee.
And the requirements of a committee member would be?
I can give you a copy of what the packet is. They really don't give that much information other than it's Transportation Committee. I have the minutes from their last meeting. You can get
Is it a member of the governing board or is it a resident? Or you don't know, I'm sorry.
It does not state that it has to be a governing body member. So
Okay.
you can let me know. And that's all I have for now.
Very good. Entertain a motion.
Make a motion open to the public?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. This is a open public meeting, open public portion on anything you want to talk about.
Lottery. Kurt, did you say that they did salt all roads?
I don't know when it started. The mayor just informed us that he had changed policy last night, that they were going to salt all roads, all lengths of roads. So
Okay, so they didn't do it yet.
they have, yes.
It started last year. We discussed it at a meeting about a year ago when we had the one meeting in the firehouse. So it's been about a year since we've
Hasn't been
doing
before the
it.
council, but before, but,
Well, they didn't come down Alcolt Avenue.
I mean, usually if you plow a road and you don't have 3 or 4 days of another storm, the sun usually will take care of a plowed road. If you hit multiple storms day after day, then it's a different story. But normally, you get a storm, the sun comes out, if it's been plowed, it usually melts.
Okay. I have two other things. What were they? What is with the garbage collection? If you are, say, to be picked up on Tuesday and we have the storm, when is supposed to be the next garbage collection?
Well, typically, what they try to do is put a nixle out or post on the website. The website's obviously, well, both are very easy to do. But step one is to begin working on mitigating the storm. But step two is to get the notice out as quickly as possible. Now, in this particular case, they kept forging forward and they actually collected all the garbage on the same day that it was. So they did both. So they try and manage, but it depends on the level of the storm.
They didn't fully, it was the next day.
They tried to, and they got a bunch done.
They
Well,
got
they
the
did get-
majority done yesterday, and then it overlapped into today also.
Well, I guess they don't know where Alcolt Avenue is.
And I want to be clear, Terry, because I know you were shaking your head, but I wasn't saying they did everything. I'm just saying.
I'm not even saying yesterday's, but I'm saying previous to that. They don't come down the street.
I'm talking about for garbage collection? Yeah.
The storm prior to this, they skipped and just made it, you had to
The
wait another
following,
week. That was
And they
that
did,
time.
and they did put a nixle out, and they did post it on the website. They
And
try
the
and get it
reason they
out.
did that was because the magnitude of what they were forecasting for that storm. They weren't anticipating that they were even going to be able to pick up Wednesday or Thursday for that
It never
storm.
got picked
That
up.
was the storm that was so big that never really
And mine too.
fruition.
I'm with you. Mine too. They never picked up on mine. But to be honest with you, that storm, and there's been so many, so I'm forgetting them.
Yeah,
I
right.
believe that storm, they put the nixle in the website out ahead of time saying, do us a favor, don't put your garbage out because we're going to plow it. So they actually, I mean,
We put ours back as close to the hedges as we can, because we know that's going to happen. Wait, what was it? Oh, let me ask you this. Is there an ordinance or a ruling about snow plowing or shoveling your snow on the road?
yeah,
Yes, there is.
Okay, what is it?
you can't do it.
And then what, is there a fine or what?
Sure.
What is there?
There is a fine.
It's fine. What it is, I don't know.
All right.
I think it's a ordinance violation,
It
which
is.
is court appearance mandatory, and the judge determines what it
I
is.
don't know what we're going
probably
to do.
a-
I don't know what we're going to do.
The police. And I was actually listening on the radio the other day, and they were calling people out for it and
There-
sending.
This is a very difficult task to manage when you're dealing with the weather and I think the Public Works have done a phenomenal job, but
Right.
nothing's ever going to be perfect, and you got to kind of, juggle the ball, so to speak. When there is a problem, for example, there's also ordinances that restrict parking on streets when they're snow covered, so that the plows can properly do their job, and then they can go back. Same thing, that's enforced by the police department. I don't know what the fines are. Typically, even the cops, when they write you a ticket for shoveling your snow into the street, they're not going to know what the fines are, because that's not really the priority. It's to enforce the ordinance, and that's set by the courts. But we look for residents to self-police, and for those that aren't, if you don't think it's the unneighborly thing to do, notify the police department, and they'll handle it by way of enforcement, and hopefully that reinforces that next time you won't do that.
All right, just wanted to know about that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And Terry, if you check the website, which, you get used to doing, there's a wealth of information that keeps you up to date, like garbage pickup and collections. They're usually on top of putting notices on that.
Can we just start doing this?
He works at ShopRite, and he's so worried they're not going to get salt. They got to get it on their own.
Yeah.
Hello,
Hello.
Kristen Carase, 203 Willard Clark Circle. I got this mailing, and I didn't make a copy, so I'm going to give it to you. It looks so much like our water bill.
It does.
And I was concerned for residents that may not read things properly, or older citizens perhaps. It's some sort of, I don't need, like home warranty on your water pipes or something like that, but I just wanted to make you guys aware of it because it looks just like our water bill.
I appreciate it. I will tell you personally, this looks exactly like it. I will tell you personally, I'm aware of, by virtue of my employment, unbelievable amounts of scams, whether they're legitimate scams or whether they're taking advantage of misinformation or misrepresentation or whatever you want to say. So this is good.
So if you could make maybe some of the senior residents more aware about this, because it looks like, oh, it's my water bill, I should pay it.
What I'd like to do is redact your personal information from it, but maybe
Sure.
we can actually scan this in and put it on the website.
Right.
So
As
to
a
educate
notice.
people. Now, that might not reach the senior population, but maybe our,
I could
Or bring it
communicate
up
it to
at a-
Office on Aging.
correct, I was
Yeah.
going to say,
They can relay it also.
Janine, who's the Office on Aging Director, maybe can,
You might want to alter it a little bit, though.
so that, yeah.
Change the address and change.
That's what I'm saying,
yeah.
redact some certain things
Yeah,
about it.
redact.
Yeah, that's fine.
So that it,
You can also give it to Bill for neighborhood watch.
And follow through with the police department as well, that's a great idea. And then the neighborhood watch groups that we have would be able to do that. So, good idea.
If you're familiar with coming down Adirondack towards Snow Hill, that's a really bad intersection. And my husband kind of made the observation, and I know it's a private property, but the hedges that are on, if you're going to make a left,
Yep.
if the hedges weren't, I know it's snow, I'm thinking forward towards the spring. If the hedges weren't there, you may not have to pull out quite as far to
Okay.
see left. And again, it's a private property, I know that it's, but it's so difficult, and that's such a hard intersection, and now that I'm driving with my son who's learning how to drive, I become more aware of these
Yes,
things.
you're right.
He's like, I can't see. I'm like, oh, yeah, you're right.
Yes.
So anyway, I don't know if there's anything that could be done, but it's just an observation.
It absolutely can be done.
I call that one in every spring. When you're pulling out, you can't see.
Yeah.
As you were speaking, I looked to my right, your left, and I happened to notice that the business administrator was frantically writing notes. That means she's probably going to notify our traffic safety, and they'll take a look at it.
Okay.
I believe that property might be vacant.
it's vacant, it's owned, I believe,
Bank-owned?
I know who owns the property.
Yeah.
He owns a couple houses in town.
And if it's not being maintained, the borough will maintain it or mitigate the circumstances and bill the homeowner, so.
Okay, great. Lastly, I noticed that we have Councilwoman Draws and Mayor Policino are now on the South Central Middlesex County Flood Control Commission, which we had people years ago because we know we have ongoing flood issues in the town. So I bring up again that I get these mailings from the Middlesex County Planning Board for the Water Resources Association, and that in January, November, and I didn't bring December's, we have no representation at those meetings again. It says Borough of Spotswood, not present. So I had asked the business administrator several meetings ago if you were going to be attending them, and you said that you would, but now you're
I
not
try
again.
to as much as my schedule allows me to.
Is there someone else that may be able to go in our place? Because they're talking about a lot of very important flood issues in Middlesex County, which can affect us. And if you're, I can understand you can't go to all of them, but if you're not able to go, maybe we can have a backup person that could attend it.
Is
So,
this two different things?
yes.
South
This is
Central,
not-
and this is the county, the Water Resources Association.
I thought that was hasn't been activated. They were,
That South Central flood has not been meeting.
okay.
So that's the one that Councilwoman Draws and the mayor are now going to be on again. I guess they're trying to reorganize that, but.
I appointed her, and I also appointed as an alternate to her, Chris Hager, is a member of our fire company and the deputy emergency management coordinator.
So perhaps we could do some kind of an alternate thing for this as well, so that if you're unable to, then we have a voice here, and if something comes up during one of these meetings that Spotswood is mentioned, or our area, if no one's there, we can't speak to it or be notified, know about it. So that's just a suggestion, because we need our voice on these flood control things. We're a tiny little town, and I think we get overlooked a lot for things like that, and we have a flood problem in this town. My house has been flooded several times, and it never was the 20 years prior to me living there, as reported to me. So, I think it's very important for us to be represented on anything we're asked to be represented.
That board handles a lot more than just flooding issues, and I do review the agenda when it gets mailed to me, and if there is anything pertinent to Spotswood, I do make sure I try to attend.
Sure, sure.
And even if it isn't, could we look at maybe doing that? Would it be something, would it be something appropriate for our new water employees to possibly do?
We
Or-
could look at Fred, yeah, definitely.
Okay,
That's
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Oh, and thanks for finishing the bamboo thing and having it in ordinance, and I don't want to talk about bamboo ever again. Thank you.
We hope you don't have to either.
And Marge is in Hawaii, as a reminder.
Just
That's probably.
Just one more comment. The next meeting is March 9th, and I just want to let everyone know, those meetings are open to the public. Anybody can attend. So
That's
even
good.
if you wanted to attend, you could. Sure. Absolutely.
And where are those held?
They are held at I believe it's the Elks
Okay.
on Livingston Ave.
40 Livingston Avenue.
Yep.
That's very welcome, wouldn't it?
I'm not really sure. There you go.
Yeah.
These are a couple of the meeting notes it gives you that
A lot of
information.
handouts today.
I've been there.
Thank you.
I always have handouts.
Yeah.
Very good, thank you.
Parking lot is extremely tight.
Yes.
Anybody else wishing to speak in the open public portion?
Your own space.
Yes.
Seeing none?
Make a motion.
Motion to close the public portion?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
That's our meeting.
Thank you all for coming out tonight.
Thank you.